Moving back to Africa wasn't just a change of location, it also changed me. I learned things about myself that I never would have discovered if I had stayed abroad. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the real raw lessons that moving back has taught me about who I am. Welcome back to Farida's Media. If you've been following my journey, you know that I've moved back from the United States to Africa in 2023. Today I'm not going to be giving any lessons. I'm just sharing with you what moving back has taught me about who I am. I'm going to be sharing with you 5 different lessons that I've learned about who I am. Now, if you watched my previous videos, you know I've made a video about finding my purpose. And so really lesson number 1 is realizing that I was attached to an idea of a lifestyle instead of a purpose. So that was my biggest lesson that I've learned, realizing that I was attached to a lifestyle instead of a purpose. I thought that I was enjoying the freedom abroad, but instead it was really just me enjoying a lifestyle instead of enjoying what my purpose is or finding out what my purpose is in life. I was just enjoying the lifestyle. I was enjoying the ease of being able to have everything accessible, having access to systems, having access to, different services, just having access to the lifestyle that I've always dreamed of having. When you grow up in a country up to a certain age, you really get the privilege of just experiencing life the way you might have dreamed of it, if you are lucky to have had, and just experiencing different situations and scenarios and different steps of your life as you go, and not really questioning your purpose. It's really easy to get attached to a lifestyle that you've curated almost all your life. That's what you know growing up. And for you, it might turn into something that seems like it's purposeful or that is your purpose, but you have to define in life what your purpose is. You have to find your purpose in life. And really, it could be that you're just living day to day thinking that you've won the jackpot of just living your life, whereas you are living without purpose. It's so easy to happen. So that's something that I've learned, that I was living a lifestyle and not living my purpose in life. And moving back has taught me that I needed to define success on my own terms. I needed to define what success meant. I lived in a community, I lived in a society where success was kind of, we had this idea of success. We have this idea of different milestones to go through at different ages, and being out of that environment has taught me that I need to redefine what success meant for me. I need to understand what it is that brings me purpose, and this is all really connected when you think about it. What is it that brings me purpose, that fills my cup first and brings me purpose in life, that defines it whether or not I feel that I am successful in my life? And this has nothing to do with the society, this has nothing to do with the community, this has nothing to do with the values of others. It just has everything to do with me and how I feel that I filled my cup up and I'm feeling successful in my life. And I really had to redefine that once I've made the big move, because everything I knew changed and there's nothing to cling on to. There's no prior experience to say, well, your experience is your experience and you live with your experience. It's not going to leave you just because you changed environments. I understand that, but I'm just saying there's not something to cling on to and say, I'm clinging on to dear life, this is my success and I'm only successful in this environment. No, you have to realize that there are different things in your life that once you accomplish, you feel like you are successful and you feel fulfilled, and that is the best feeling ever. The biggest takeaway that I had for lesson number 1 is understanding that comfort is not the same as calling. Feeling comfortable is not the same as feeling that I am fulfilling my calling in life. Now, it's easy, especially if you are coming from a country in Europe, Canada, the United States, anywhere else in the world. But I just refer to the US because that's what I knew, that's what I know, and that's where I've grown up. But I'm just saying that it's so easy to confuse comfort with calling. When you're so comfortable, when you get so comfortable, you think, oh, this is my calling. No, it's not. You're just comfortable where you are. For lesson number 2, it might come off as a shock, but I had more identity confusion than I thought I had in my own country. Now, I was coming from a background where I was referred to as an African because I have African roots, and then come back home, referred to as an American because I've lived more abroad than I've ever lived in Africa in my entire life. So I had more identity confusion than ever. That's just the smallest part of it. Because I assumed coming home would feel natural. I assumed coming back to Africa would feel like it was meant to be. It would feel so natural. Everything would come natural to me. But no, because it's something new to me. Even if I was coming back for vacations every year almost, it was still something new once I made that big move in 2023. It's not something that comes natural. So I know I said I wasn't going to give advice, but make sure that you don't feel like, oh my gosh, everything's supposed to be natural because it's meant to be, it's home. It could feel that, oh my gosh, this is new, this is different, I didn't expect this, it's not natural. It's not what I expected. And when I thought of it, it's because I've changed. It's because I haven't been the same person I was before going to the United States. I've changed because I've lived more of my life in the United States than I've ever lived anywhere else in the world. And if you know, the different environments are so drastically different. And once you change, things around you change, your perception of life change, everything changes. So I've learned that, yeah, I've changed. I've gotten so used and so comfortable with myself, thinking that, oh my goodness, I feel good where I am in my life, not realizing that I have changed as a person completely, almost unrecognizable even. Now, unrecognizable in a good way, but it made me feel like a foreigner in my ancestral country. It made me feel like it made me feel like a foreigner. That's the best way I could put it. Not that I didn't belong, because I knew I belonged, but it just made me feel like I was someone who was foreign. I was more alien to that place than I were where they call people alien. Now, this forced me to really reflect on who I really am without labels, without the labels of being labeled as an alien, as an American, as an African, as a foreigner, as an immigrant, as a native, as anything. None of those labels. It really just made me reflect back to myself, like, who am I? Just answering that question. It wasn't as easy as I thought, because every time I wanted to answer that question, I would refer back to a label. I'm like, no, Farida, you need to define who you are without labels. And that was the biggest lesson I've learned. Needing to define without labels and without location, because I can't refer back to me being an American, or me being an African, or me being an immigrant, and definitely me being an alien or anything like that. There's no labels, no location. Who am I? From this lesson, I've learned that, I needed not to define who I am with any approvals. I just needed to know to the core, who am I? And I know I keep saying, who am I? But I've learned about who am I, and who I am. And this was one of the biggest lessons that lesson number 2 has taught me. Finding my identity. And I've learned that it's not like I was trying to find my identity, but I was finding my identity. Now, I'm not referring to this as someone, you guys, that as someone who comes from the United States, finding my identity could be taken so wrong. But trust me, it's not in that way. Just personal character. Who am I as my person, not as my social construct or anything. Guys, it's hard, but I don't want to mention it in this video. Anyways, let's move past that and go into lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 has taught me that I was actually stronger than I thought I was. It was hard. I mean, when you move to a different place, different people who don't know you, who have to now construct an idea of you, or the image of you based on maybe what you lay out there for them to grab and, construct the idea of you, or put a meaning or just a definition to you. It is something that could come judgmentally or anything. I learned that I was just stronger than what I thought I gave myself credit for, especially coming from a community or an environment from the United States, where it's like, okay, yeah, people sugarcoat almost everything, and you are almost babied through life. Everything's just at your service, at your doorstep. No one's going to be telling you the harsh truth of maybe like in Africa where you live, and people would come to you straight up to your face and be like, oh my goodness, I almost didn't recognize you. You look so fat. People would literally legit come to you and tell you that. Whereas in the United States or abroad, people, sugarcoat almost everything. Oh my gosh, girl, I didn't recognize you. Wanting or meaning to say, girl, you got fat. Literally. I mean, I'm not here to body shame anyone. I'm just sharing with you the different culture, the different environments. So you can expect different life results, or your character to come through and shine, and your person to be different, just because what's thrown at your person is so different. For me, I've learned that I'm a stronger person, not because of me coming from an environment where everything's sugar coated, and now everything's not sugar coated and I'm able to live through it, but because of the different things that I've gone through in my life. I realized, like, wow, you are stronger than you thought you were. The different things that I'm able to handle, I'm like, wow, you're stronger than what you think. I really saw myself pushing through things that I didn't know I could handle. I saw myself being open to discussing different situations, to discussing different scenarios that I would have never crossed my mind. I mean, come on, if I was living in the US and anyone brings the FAT word, people would just feel some type of way. People would just all of a sudden have an idea of, oh my gosh, like, no, people just bluntly just tell you what they think. And you gotta learn to process and not be so emotional, and not be so reliant on how people view you, but instead on how you view yourself. Now, with that comment that people can come up and tell you to your face that your body has changed, it's also part of the culture of people here wanting to be more on the bigger side than on the skinnier side. Most people want to be more on the bigger side than on the skinnier side. Now, whether that be a trend or not, I'm not really sure, but that's just how it is. I was talking about adapting in my previous videos, or learning about the different cultures and stuff like that, the previous videos that are part of this playlist. But I've also realized that, yeah, I have learned that I am stronger, but resilience became real. Being resilient was a real thing, not just something that I've talked about or something that you just say passing and that's just you continue with your life. No, being resilient through different situations was a real thing. It became something that I needed to really force to have in order to, I don't want to say survive, but in order to really, go through life, not being emotionally dependent, or being so emotional and babied throughout life. I mean, for me, I feel that in order to truly experience life, in order to truly experience people, you have to be able to let people speak their mind. You have to be able to let people, tell you what they truly think of you, or at least be true to themselves when they're dealing with you, instead of sugarcoating their ideas or their ideologies or their beliefs just because they don't want to upset you. No, you have to learn that yes, it could happen that I'll be upset at someone's idea, but why am I upset in the first place? Anyways, let's close this chapter of lesson number 3 and get into lesson number 4. For lesson number 4, really my values became more clear to me. Being in Niger has definitely reminded me of what matters to me the most: community, family, intention, having an impact on others, and definitely being of service to others. I am a person who's always of service to people. I am more service oriented, whether that be working in a non-for-profit sector, whether that being working in a role where I get to impact the life of others. I want to be of service to the life of others. And so being here has really grounded me to be able to understand what truly mattered to me in the first place. What was driving me? What was my purpose in the first place? And that just brought more joy to me. It's so different when you're not blinded by having excess of almost everything, when you're not blinded by having excess of services, of people, of everything. It's just when you're not blinded by all of that, it becomes more clear to you. For me, definitely, it helped me reconnect to my core and helped me really understand what was at the core of why I wanted to do things for my life. So going back to simplicity was definitely more sacred. Being more simple, going back to the core, reconnecting to the core, understanding, wow, I have more strength that I gave myself, or understand I find more purpose in this than what I thought I did. is really eye-opening for me. The biggest takeaway of lesson number 5 is that growth feels so uncomfortable at first. It feels like you're going against what you know. It feels like you're going against the illusions that you have been fed up with in your life. And so it feels so uncomfortable. It feels wrong. When you're growing, it just feels like, oh my gosh, what's going on? It's growth. It's growth. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but moving back, it felt confusing and uncomfortable at first. But it is also growth. And growth at first feels uncomfortable. But once you grow, you realize that this is the best place I could have been in my life. I'm not saying all growth needs to feel uncomfortable, needs to feel suffocating. No, I'm just saying that not all growth feels comfortable and happy and fairy tale like in the beginning. But sometimes it's very uncomfortable in the beginning, but the benefits, the joy that would come after that is unimaginable. I definitely feel like the discomfort helped me evolve as a person, and for that, I am grateful. And I feel that that is the biggest gift that I've received from moving back. Being able to grow out of the shell of knowing almost everything that I knew before, and now adding on to it, especially life experiences, different situations, different things. It's just, I can't even list it. I wonder if you've made any big life transitions in your life that has taught you lessons that you've learned from. If there are, please feel free to share them in the comments so we can continue the conversation in the comments. If you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep seeing videos from me, make sure that you subscribe, and I'll catch you in the comments.